Welcome to the Integrated Product Teams training. Integrated Product Teams, or IPT for short, are contracting teams formed with the purpose of procuring a product or service and getting it delivered to the using organization. IPT members are individuals that are experts in their functional areas. These individuals are brought together into the IPT to contribute their skills towards the common goal of efficiently and effectively receiving a product or service that meets the needs of the using organization. Using a team-based approach allows various organizations and the representatives of those organizations, who are called stakeholders, to have input into a requirement early in the acquisition process. Why is it important to get stakeholders' input early? It's because getting stakeholders' input early helps keep the cost of corrections low. To demonstrate, let's take a look at the graph. We can see the timeline, which is this bottom horizontal axis. We have the number of changes, which is the left vertical axis, and dollars spent, which is the vertical axis on the right. Acquisitions using integrated product teams are designed to have high levels of involvement early in the process. During this time, the intensity and involvement of the stakeholders is high because they are primarily focused on designing and defining the requirement and generating the various requirements documents, which is a time-consuming and expensive process. If the team does a good job critically analyzing the requirement and then designing and defining the required levels of IPT involvement should drop significantly after solicitation issuance. If executed properly, this keeps the need to edit, revise, and seek approvals for document revisions to a minimum. Compare this to the serial approach, where high levels of stakeholders' involvement are required immediately before and during solicitation issuance in order to make corrections and revisions on the fly. The majority of the time and effort are made when costs are at their highest. If adequate levels of stakeholder input are not received early on, then the number of personnel involved, document revisions, reviews, time invested, and overall cost of administering the acquisition increases significantly. Also, consider that if changes are needed after solicitation issuance, this also increases potential contractors' perceived risk and required effort to respond to changes. This increase of risk and cost to submit a proposal will likely be passed on to the government in driving contract price up. If you are going to keep the cost of changes and frustration low, it's essential that only well-defined requirements are solicited and that all stakeholders participate early in the acquisition process. IPT teams can be physically located together or established virtually, but prompt attendance to meetings can't be overemphasized regardless of the geographic location of its members. By establishing a controlled environment that respects each stakeholder's time, opinion, and input, IPT members will be able to comfortably share information at the lowest levels, learn across all functionalities, efficiently progress through the 4 stages of team building, and otherwise be highly productive. There are generally 5 to 7 primary IPT team members. The users. Users identify needs and formulate plans to satisfy mission needs. The users are the individuals using the product or service, which means they are most connected to the product or service being purchased because they use it on a recurring basis. Users know what has worked in the past and where risk and vulnerability exist with the product or service being procured. Program managers. PMs may oversee programs for the users. The PMs and users are often the personnel responsible for writing statements of work, performance work statements, quality assurance surveillance plans, and conducting market research, among other responsibilities. Since the PMs and users are responsible for composing many of the documents, and since the contracting officer is responsible for the quality and accuracy of the requirements documents, it's not hard to see why having a good working relationship from the beginning is a good idea. Engineers. Engineers select the parts and system components that are part of a system, product, or process. Engineers and their teams usually design, select, and approve the parts and/or support components of systems so it may operate optimally. Engineers also consider short and long-term costs associated with systems, so they can accurately forecast the total cost of ownership and total cost of management over the system's projected life cycle. Contract specialists. Contract specialists work directly with the program managers and users to accurately define the requirement, issue solicitations, evaluate proposals, and award contracts. Contract specialists are also responsible to ensure compliance with laws, regulations, and policies, to encourage utilization of socioeconomic programs, to promote competitive acquisitions, and serves as primary business advisors to commanders. And finance. Finance approves funds and advises for funding options. Legal and small business may also need to be involved, depending on the size and scope of the requirement. Legal reviews and advice on legal matters in small business facilitates small business participation. There also may be other IPT members such as logistics, security, communications, safety, public affairs, and medical, depending on the specific requirement. As a general rule, IPT should not exceed 10 to 12 members. too many cooks in the kitchen can result in salty soup. From the IPT members, a team leader will need to be designated. Team leaders must be capable of creating a shared vision, encourage team collaboration, soliciting feedback from team members, and overall, creating empowered team members. And although the IPT leader is responsible for overseeing the team and monitoring progress, it will ultimately be up to you when you're part of an integrated product team to concentrate your efforts and be highly effective in order to help the team be successful. When integrated product teams are successful, acquisition lead times, contract cost and risk all decrease, and the quality and timely delivery of the end product or service will meet and exceed mission requirements.